Okay. So in the last session, we have seen how to create the value sets structure. Within the structure, we created segments. The same value sets we assigned to respective segments. And also we have seen how to assign the segment labels to segments. What labels we assign? Primary balance and segment label we assign to company. Cost center segment label we assign to department. Natural account segment label we assign to account. For these three segments, we assign three labels and we discuss what is the purpose of these labels. That may not be complete information as of now. Going forward, once we record the transactions during the transaction creation and all, we'll see the proof of this label purpose. But now what points we discussed? The primary balance and segment label we assign to company to balance each and every transaction company level. So that means system will take care of each and every transaction. The debit company is equal to the debit in the debit line, whatever the company we have, that is equal to credit line or not. Okay, that system will verify the amounts are equal or not. Debit amount is equal to credit amount or not. For the same company, system will have a validation because of this primary balance and segment label. And also system will support us to prepare any reports based on that information. The second segment is department. For department, we assign cost center segment label. Because of this, we'll be able to track the cost or depreciation of the fixed assets. If you are going to implement fixed assets application, we should assign cost center segment label to department. Along with that point, one more point is if you implement Fusion expense application to set up the approval mechanism and all, cost center wise or say department wise, the cost center segment label we have to assign to department as mandatory. And natural account segment label we assign to account segment. The purpose is when you maintain all the accounts, you should specify the nature of each and every account. The account nature is expense or revenue or asset or liability or ownership. Which type of account is that? Which nature of account is that we have to specify. Reality will get all this information from the client. When you do the implementation, client will provide all the accounts, including the nature, the type of accounts they'll provide. That same we can enter in the system. How to enter and all, anyway, we'll see those. So this is what we did in the last session, right? So value set, structure, segments, value set assignment, segment, label assignments, and all we did. Once we're done with this, we have to create the chart of account structure instance. So instance means it is just copy. Okay, when you look at the term called as instance, the English term meaning is copy. Okay, say here, instance is nothing but copy. So in the Fusion applications, whatever the chart of account structure or whatever the chart of accounts we are creating, that we cannot use directly to record the transactions. During the transaction creation, we need chart of accounts to capture the description of the transaction. Yes, we created chart of accounts. Of course, we didn't create any segment values. We have structure created. Now we not created any segment values. Even after creating the segment values within the each and every segment, or you can say each and every value set, that you cannot use directly. We have to create the copy of chart of account structure. Whatever copy you create, the copy definition only you can use. Okay, now what are the chart of account structure we created? Within that we have segments, value sets, and we assign the labels and all. These and all you cannot use directly. The chart of account structure you have to copy, that only we call as chart of account structure instance. The chart of account structure instance only you can use wherever it is required. Chart of account structure directly you cannot use anywhere. Okay, now chart of account structure will act as a template. By using one chart of account structure, you can create multiple instances. So there is one reporting reason why Oracle made this. If you are from EBS background, we don't need to create any chart of account structure instance. We just create chart of account structure in EBS. It could be 11A or at least 12. So we create chart of account structure directly that we can use wherever it is required. But in Fusion, chart of account structure, we have to copy whatever copy we create, that only we call a chart of account structure instance. The instance only we can use, structure we cannot use. That means the role of chart of account structure here is it will act as a template. By using one chart of account structure, you can create multiple instances. Those you can use wherever those are required. Okay, so there is one concept called as FRS, Financial Reporting Studio, which is related to Hyperion. Since they introduced that Hyperion reporting functionality in the Fusion applications, they are using this concept called as chart of account structure instance to support that Hyperion reporting functionality. They came up with this concept called as copying chart of account structure and creating that as an instance that only we can use so that the data can be pumped into S-based related database, S-based database, which is required for Hyperion. Anyway, this is separate concept. When we deal with that, we'll discuss very detailed level and we'll work on that reporting part also. But now what point we have to understand is once chart of accounts structure is ready, that you have to copy. That only we call as chart of account structure instance. Let's copy the chart of account structure to create the chart of account structure instance. You can go to our implementation project, manage implementation projects. Here is our implementation project. Go to our project, search for the task called as chart of accounts structures or structure instances. You can use any task. Both will take us to same page. You can use the task called as manage chart of account structures or manage chart of account structure instances. Both will navigate us to same page. I'm selecting this, or you can select first one. We know these tasks are in the sequence. Now you can proceed with this task or this task. Okay. I'm selecting manage chart of account structures related. Go to task icon. Just click on this. Click on search. So we discussed about this in the last session. Application general ledger. Within that we have accounting flex field. And by clicking on manage structures, we created our chart of account structure, right? We'll check once. XYZ IFC. Search, we can find whatever we created. If you want to verify how we created, you can select, click on edit. Yes, this is what we created in the last session. XYZ accounting flex fill, the name, description, delimiter we given. Dot, it's nothing but segments operator we discussed to when system would select code combination to separate those codes, we require this. And we created three segments, company, department, account, and we assigned respect to labels. For company, how company segment, how you created, if you want to check, you can select this company record and click on edit. How we created, this is how we given the information. For company, this is a name, sequence, prompt, short prompt, display width, column name is segment 1, value set, which value set we assign, which label we assign to company, that you can see. Just whatever we did in the last session, just we are checking. Department segment, how we created. This is how just cost center label we assigned. Department value set we assigned to department segment. So segment 2 and the sequence number is 2. And we created account segment within our accounts. So sequence is 3. Prompt display name is account. Label is natural account segment label we assigned. And value set XYZ account value set we assigned to account segment, segment number 3, display width. Right, done. So this is how we created. Now the same structure we are going to copy with the concept called as instance. Here itself we have a tab. Next to manage structures, we have a tab called as manage structure instances. Just click on manage structure instances to create the copy. Click on manage structure instances. Now here you can click on create. Okay, so already structure we created. How we are creating instance? Okay, we are not talking about our application related instance. This is related to chart of account structure instance. When you say instance, the product environment what we are using, that also we call as instance. Why we are calling that product environment as instance? Whatever the product Oracle developed, the copy only they are giving to us to use. That is the reason we are calling it as instance. In the same way, whatever the chart of account structure we created, that also we are going to copy. That is the reason this we are calling as chart of account structure instance. Okay, now to create the instance, you can proceed with this task or this task. Any task you can use. Okay, both will take us to same page. Click on go to task icon. Click on search. Okay, just click on search. Now we are in the same page. You may click on manage chart of account structures or manage chart of account structure instances. Will be landing in the same page. Now what we have to do to create the instance against our structure? Click on manage structure instances and say create. So what name we given to our chart of account structure already? We given the name called as XYZ INC accounting flex field. This is structure name. Now we are going to create instance. We'll give the different name with a slight change. We'll give the name as say XYZ INC accounting flex. Okay. For chart of account structure, this is the name we used. Now we are creating the chart of account structure instance. For instance, we are going to use this name. Okay, for instance, this is the name we are going to use. So for instance, this is the name we are going to use. Just remember for structure what name we used, for instance which name we are going to use, so that this point we can use as input when we are going to perform some other task in just maybe today's session or tomorrow's session. Just remember this, what name we given for what. Done. Now we'll give this name. So here we can give the name as XYJNC accounting flex. You no need to write XYJNC accounting flex instance and all. You no need to include what we are defining within the field itself. Use tab, the same name system will copy as a API name. This is for technical purpose. Any customizations, integrations, web services and all. So related to technical aspects. Okay, instead of using this field name for mapping, technical people will use this API name field for any mapping. The same name you can copy and paste as a our chart of account structure instance name, and description is completely optional. You may provide the description. And now we are trying to create the instance. We are trying to create the chart of account structure instance. Instance is nothing but copying the chart of account structure. Now we have to choose which chart of account structure we want to copy to create this instance. That we have to select as a structure name. Select. The name is XYZ accounting flex field. Okay. So within this XYZ accounting flex field, what are the segments we created, the same system is displaying. What we have inside of this accounting key flex field, the same system is displaying. Now what we have to do is, what are the segments we have within this XYZ accounting flex field structure, those all we have to mark as required into this instance. Now what we have to do is, we have to mark these three segments as required so that our instance would be ready to use. Select company. Here we have one column called as required. Okay, we have one column called as required. So select segment called as company. Click on edit. Say required. So there are a few points which you have to understand when you are dealing with that. We'll see. For now, just let's focus on how to create it. Enable required and say OK. Okay. That means within this chart of account structure, the segment called company we want to use in the chart of account structure instance. And one more point, you have to mark all the segments as required, otherwise you cannot use this chart of account structure instance. Okay, it is mandatory, you have to select as required, otherwise it won't support to use. Select department segment, click on edit, say required and say OK. Select account segment, click on edit, say required, say OK. So by copying this XYZ and say accounting flexible structure, we are creating chart of account structure instance. Okay, now say save and close. Click on done. What we did is a very simple task. We copied our chart of account structure. Whatever we copied, we are calling as instance. That's all. Okay, whatever we copied, we are calling it as a instance. Done. Now we have to deploy accounting key flex field. Where we have accounting key flex field here. Okay, in general ledger application we have accounting flex field. Within this accounting flex field or accounting key flex field only we created structure and instance. Now this chart of account structure and instances whatever we have to create, we have to submit for validation. Okay, we have to submit for validation. Notice these points, these are very, very important. Deploy accounting key flex field, okay, means we have to submit our accounting flex field for validation. When you submit for validation, what system will do? Within this accounting flex field, what are the structures and instances are created, it will validate. What points it will validate? There is a minimum rule called as minimum two segments. Those minimum two segments are balancing segment and natural account segments. These two segments are available in the chart of account structure or not, it will verify. Okay, minimum two segments are available or not, system will verify. If anything is wrong with that our chart of account structure, the validation will identify and it will throw the error message or warning message. Okay, so the basic point system will verify is for one segment balancing segment label is assigned or not. For other segment, natural account segment label is assigned or not. Minimum two segments are required. For two segments, for one segment balancing segment label, second segment natural account segment label, these two are assigned to respective segments or not. System will validate when you submit this for a deployment. Okay, deploy accounting flex field or deploy accounting key flex field. Okay, anything you can call like. The system point of view, you will see the display name as a accounting flex field only. Better you can take the same. Say deploy accounting flex field. When you deploy accounting flex field, within the accounting flex field, what are the chart of account structures or instances we created, system will validate. If anything wrong with those definitions or not, it will verify. And since we are using the practice instances, one point we have to notice. See here. This is the accounting flex field. Now I can click on deploy flex field. Now what system will do is within this accounting flex field, how many structures we have, we'll go and check. Go to manage structures, click on search. See, many structures we have. Okay, many structures we have. These all system will validate. Since this is a practice instance, these many structures are there. When you are working for your client, say you are implementing for one country, yes, you will have only one chart of account structure. You are doing the implementation for your client for 10 countries. In case of 10 countries also, you may have only one structure. Okay. So when we deal with that, how many chart of account structures we can have and all. So there we'll discuss all those points, the best practice for chart of accounts and all. When we discuss, we'll talk on that. So here simple point is The reality, when you do the implementation, you may have one chart of account structure or two chart of account structures. Reality, even client is operating the business in the multiple countries, ideally will go with a single chart of accounts only, that we call as global chart of accounts. If one chart of accounts we are going to use for multiple countries, that we call as global chart of accounts. These points would be very clear for us when we talk about the enterprise structure and all. Yep. Very soon we'll discuss those. Here you just notice the point. Okay. So you don't see as many structures when you are working for your client. You may find only one or two. It depends. We'll discuss. So now you see here deployment status is edited. That means within this accounting flex field, there may be new structure created or else existing structure might be updated. So that it is system is showing deployment status as edited. Whenever you create the new structure within this accounting flex field or new instance, you have to submit this accounting flex field for deployment. Here, remember one point. We are not trying to deploy our chart of account structure instance. We are not trying to deploy our specific chart of account structure instance. We are trying to deploy entire accounting flex field. Within the accounting flex field, how many structures and instances we have, all we are going to submit for deployment. System will validate all. So now we created 10 and we submitted for deployment. Again, we created one more. Now, the one more what you created separately you cannot deploy. You have to submit entire accounting flex field for a deployment. The previously whatever you deployed, that also system will verify whether those are edited or any just updates. If any updates existing structures, those it will validate, and the new one whatever we created, that also it will validate. Now the challenge here is, say you create a chart of account structure with a minimum 2 segments. For company, you assigned primary balance and segment label. For account, you assign natural account segment label. You did that. But what I did is, I created 4 segments. But I forgot to assign primary balance and segment label and natural account segment label. So if you and me almost completed setups same times, or else say after you I completed. Now you are submitting accounting flex field for deployment. When you submit accounting flex field for deployment, because of my chart of account structure, the entire deployment will fail. It will give the message. In so-and-so chart of accounts, so-and-so labels are not assigned. That's how you will get a message. If you submit, you will get. If I submit for a deployment, I'll get it. Okay, that means within the same accounting flex field, whatever the chart of account structures we have, if anything wrong with any one of the chart of account structure, when we submit for a deployment, you will get a report saying that in which chart of accounts we have which issue. Say I just created and I left the system, and you are working on the system, you created your own chart of account structure and everything you created properly and you submitted for a deployment. Because of my chart of account structure, that deployment is not happening. It will give the report. The deployment, once you submit for deployment, you will get a report. That means you will get information. Based on that, you have to go and correct my chart of account structure. I forgot to assign primary balance and segment label and natural account segment label to respective segments. Whenever you submit for a deployment, it will give the report. Based on that, you have to correct, and then you can submit for a deployment once again. So that's how you can proceed. When you are practicing, in case of training and all, you will have this sort of experience. When you start working with the client, you never come across with these issues. The guys who are very much comfortable with the system and who got some experience or knowledge, only they will do these setups and all. So you never come across with these issues. But in the practice instances, people will create partially and they may forget to assign the labels. These and all we come across. Please note these points and get ready to correct the other guys related chart of account structure related definitions if required. And system will give the report, detailed report, what is the chart of account structure name, what is missing in that. You will get a report based on that. So you have to correct. After correcting, again submit accounting flex field for a deployment. and here system has to display the status as a deployed. Whenever you see here status as a deployed, then you can say, yes, your chart of account structure and instances are ready to use. So this is the point we have to notice. On this point, any questions from anyone, please, on this specific point, whatever we discussed, okay, deployment related, any questions from anyone, please?
Yeah, Lakshman.
Yeah, good morning, Mr.
This deploy flex field concept is equals to compiling structure in EBS, Lakshman.
Yeah, exactly.
My understanding.
If you compare with EBS, we have a compile. When you click on compile, your chart of account structure will be compiled, validated. But the difference is in EBS, you can compile your specific chart of account structure. You can select your chart of account structure, then you can click on compile. Then your chart of account structure only will be compiled. That means will get validated. But in the Fusion, you cannot compile. That means you cannot deploy your specific chart of account structure or instance. The entire accounting flex field need to be deployed. Yeah, this deployment is equal to compile in EBS, and again that is the difference.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions here, please?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Lakshman. This is Ramesh.
Yeah.
See, I mean, when you said like, I mean, all the segments got to be selected when you go for instance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But again, you said, I mean, it will validate only two labels.
If you select any structure, all the segments will be defaulted, will be copied into instance, and you should select all the segments into instance. Otherwise, if you try to create the transactions, it will show the error message saying that few segments are not enabled. Reality, when Oracle is giving that functionality, there should be flexibility to choose specific, and there should be option to ignore few. Still, system should support us to use, but that is not there. Yeah. So that's how they.
Yeah, Mr. Lakshman.
Yeah, please. No. One second, Lakshman. Can you come again? I did not get your point. When the instance is, I mean, when by default all the segments will be available for select or will be available for part of the instance.
Yeah, 1 second. So this is the instance we created just now, right? So we selected structure called as XYZ INC accounting flex field. The moment you select within this structure, what are the segments are there, all will be defaulted here, will be displayed. Now what we have to do is, the one by one you have to mark it as required. Select company. By default it would be like this, and you can say required and say OK. This is how all you have to mark as required. If you don't enable, if you don't select department as a not required, say you are not going to mark it as required. I select a department. I create data account structure with the 3 segments, but instance I want to create only 2 segments. But if you create instance like this by ignoring any one of the segment, this instance doesn't work.
Okay, here is my point. If this is the case, why do you need to? Why do you need to exclusively put the required mark? By default, you should have selected all the required, right?
Yeah. That Oracle should do. The moment you select here, okay, Oracle should default all as required. They no need to give the checkbox and all, but they given. We should enable, otherwise it won't work. Okay, we cannot use that instance.
Again, I mean, again, like one more point you said, like, I mean, it will validate only 2 labels, right? One is, I mean, balancing, and one is accounting.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, then you should validate all the segment labels, right?
No. These 2 are mandatory for any business. If you are doing the business, minimum these 2 are mandatory to balance the transactions, primary balancing. For every account, you have to specify the nature. That is the reason. Rest, say you are not.
Yeah, it means it is conflicting both the statements, right, Mr. Lakshman? One way you are saying all the segments got to be required, and another way you are saying, I mean, it will validate.
I'm sorry. Here, when you create the instance, how many segments you have in the chart of account structure, all need to be marked as required. This is one statement. Second statement is, Validating the labels. Only 2 labels it will validate. Remaining it will ignore. Say you in your chart of account structure, you have 7 segments. 7 segments need to be marked as required here. And when it comes to validation, labels validation, only 2 labels are assigned or not, it will verify. These are the 2 different statements. I am not combining. Hope it is clear.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Specific document.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. Lakshman,
Yeah.
Can we add one more segment in the copied instance?
No, you cannot. It has to be copied. It has to be copied from the structure only.
So anything that we copy means that it will have the same type of things in this also, replica of the previous instance from where we are copying it.
This is a very good point. Here, once you finalize the chart of accounts, you should not add any segments into chart of account structure. That it will create many data inconsistency issues. Oracle is strongly recommending don't add any segments. System will allow, but we should not add.
That is okay. That is in the original structure we will not add. So it will give inconsistency.
Correct.
But in the copied instance, any possibility is there? I'm asking.
No option.
And also, what is the use of copying the structure? That's what instance. Copying it as an instance. What is the use? Specific use?
Yeah. Okay. Here, see, we have a Oracle database. Okay. So whatever the structure we create, that will be stored in the Oracle database. The same structure, okay, the same chart of accounts is required in the S-based database. S-based database. Okay. S-based database. S-based database for Hyperion reporting. FRS you can call FRS, Financial Reporting Studio, Hyperion reporting. If the same chart of accounts, this chart of information will be stored in Oracle database in the tables, the form of tables. But when it comes to S-base, in the S-base, data will be stored in the multi-dimensional cubes. Now, if you create the chart of accounts, that will be stored in the Oracle database in the tables. If data is available in the Oracle database, you cannot prepare FRS reports. The data should be available in the S-base in the cubes. That is the reason what are the chart of accounts you are creating that should be available in the multi-dimensional cubes also. For that convenience, we have to make a copy, and these two will be in the sync. The chart of account whatever we create, we are copying and we are using in the S-base also. Against our chart of accounts, multi-dimensional cubes will be created. So once data is stored in the cubes, then only you can use this Hyperion reporting tool. Okay. This anyway separate concept I'll explain. Now if we start discussing on that, we cannot complete. This is not the topic now. Since we have a question why means we have a FRS reporting. To support that FRS reporting, we are copying our chart of account structure as instance. That's all. Yeah.
So we need to definitely have multiple instances for every implementation. If we want to have the...
One second. Only one instance is required for our implementation. Only one instance. So you are implementing for one client who is based out in US. One instance is required. Directly you cannot create instance. If you want to create instance, how you require instance, accordingly you have to create the structure. Copy the structure, you will get the instance as this. One instance is enough.
No, but FRS, when you wanted to have FRS, you said you need to have another instance. You need to copy it, you said, right?
I'm sorry. Whatever the chart of account structure we are creating, that we are copying, that only we are calling as instance. One instance only. Now this instance.
The structure is one, okay. I understand the structure is one will do. But with regard to instances, you can create multiple instances to serve our different purposes.
We can create multiple, but not required. One is enough. But not required.
Suppose a client is using database and S-base for these Hyperion reports. In that case, you need to necessarily have two instances.
No, only one. See, one point here, they may not use FRS in Fusion. It is coming as inbuilt in Fusion. IP and finance reporting is coming as inbuilt as a part of financials. They may not use, instance should be created, otherwise you cannot use structure. But purpose why they given? To support that reporting. You may not use the reporting as per standard product. You have to create instance, otherwise you cannot use that structure. That's all.
Okay, one instance will serve all the purposes.
Yeah, all the purposes, correct.
One base structure and also one instance, copied instance will do.
Exactly. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions here on this point, please? If no questions, we'll proceed with the next step. Yep. So hope it is clear. When you are practicing, when you submit for a deployment, you may come across with issues. Then you have to resolve, even that structure is not created by you. How to just look into those points also we'll see now. Okay. I'm just canceling since I'm closing. Yeah. Now what we have to do? We have to submit for a deployment. Okay. Here below you can see general ledger application accounting flex field and the deployment status you can see as a edited. Now click on, yeah please. No? Okay. Now click on deploy flex field. Just click on it. Now what it will do? It will start identifying within the accounting flex field how many chart of account structures and instances we have, and how many are already deployed, how many are not yet deployed, how many are edited. Everything it will identify, and based on that it will start validating one by one. So since we have many instances, it will take some time now. It may take a couple of minutes time, but when you work for your client, you will have only one structure and one instance, mostly 99% one instance and one structure and one instance. The moment you submit for a deployment, it will validate and it will finish without taking much time. Since this is the practice instances, we noticed we have many structures and many instances against each structure. So it will take a couple of minutes time, no doubt in that. Let's wait. Meantime, we'll discuss few points. Now the deployment in progress. Okay. So entity usage process 36. These are some technical related. You don't need to worry about it. Okay. So what entities, etc., we don't need to worry about. What are the points it will validate? All they are giving as entities, different parameters that you don't need to understand, not required. Now flex field metadata validations. Here you can see during this deployment, if any errors are identified by system, it will display, or if there could be some warnings. Okay. These and all we have to verify. If any errors we have to rectify, if any warnings you can go through, but not mandatory, you have to fix them. So if you notice anything as error or warning, you can expand it. Expand this. Below it will display. Okay. So below it will display what's wrong with what. Okay, let it deploy. Then I'll just take you through an example also, so that you can understand when you're practicing, it will be very much comfortable for you to fix the issues and to proceed in case of any issues with the chart of account structures. Here below you can see the flex field deployment details. With this we cannot do anything, just the process, what system is running, it is showing, that's all. See, flex field deployment started, deployment usage for this general ledger, accounts codes, combinations. Okay, flex field is identified, flex field table usage. All this, what exactly system the deployment process is working on. Deployment is working on which process, all those you can see here. Okay, this information is not required for us, but just since they are giving for display, you may check meantime. So almost it completed 80% or say 90%. Let's wait for some time.
Lakshman sir, good morning. This is Manoj.
Yeah, Manoj.
Sir, so create chart of account structure is a mandatory step, so we have to do that, right?
Yeah, create chart of account structure is mandatory, and creating chart of account structure instance against the structure also mandatory. Both are mandatory.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, both are mandatory. If you create just chart of account structure, okay, you created. But if you want to use it, you should create instance also against that chart of account structure. Ultimately, you can use only instance in the system environment to record the transactions. Yeah. So this is the
Yeah,
point.
Lakshman, since it is a practice instance, so at the same time, if multiple people can hit deploy status,
Okay,
will it work for everyone?
Yeah, it's a very
In the real-time process, there is no problem about that.
No. If somebody is working on this accounting flex field, if same time if you try to do some modifications, if you try to save it, that doesn't support, but deployment it will support. Multiple deployments you can submit in one go. But say I am working on this chart of account structure, you are creating your own chart of account structure or instance. Okay, you can do that. But when you try to save, by that time still the same page is open. It will throw some message. Someone else is working on the same. That's how you'll get message. You have to wait for some time. But creation and all, everything is supported. When you try to save, that message you will get. Yep. Now see here.
Got it.
Yeah. Now see here. Deployment completed successfully. Start new session of the runtime application to view the changes. Okay, nothing wrong. If any errors or warnings, it will show here. Now, for our understanding, it is very, very important. Okay, I'll just do some change and adjustment for deployment. Now you can see the deployment status as a deployed. This is required. When you create the new structure and instance, make sure that your accounting flex field status is this. Otherwise, whatever the structure you create, think that is not validated. Okay, you cannot use for the transaction creation. Now I'm going to manage structures. Click on search. Here many chart of account structures are there. Remember, all are created properly without any issues. Okay. Here let's pick any one of the structure. Okay. And we'll do the modification. The deployment process should identify that. Somebody created Dell 123 COA structure. Click on edit. So company department account. They written names like company segment department. No, they don't. We should not write like that. Just write company department account only. And one more important point here. See how they created. They given numbers and all. Okay, it is not at all recommended. It is not at all recommended providing the numbers and all within the chart of account name. And don't use any special characters also when you create the chart of account structure or instance. Okay, don't use any special characters. For example, I given the name as Dell 123 COA structure and I'm giving the space after structure. This system will treat as a special character. Okay, that will create many issues. Okay, that it will create many issues later when you create transaction. That is, make sure that no space within the name means after the name. So before the name, I mean within the name, the spaces are allowed. Okay, system can understand. But if you give some space after the name like this, I given 4 character space. This system will treat as a special characters and it will create issue. Make sure that no special characters you are using within the chart of account structure or instance name and no space after the name. Okay, those points are very much important. Now let's verify for company segment what label this guy is assigned. What label should be assigned, that label only you can see. Primary segment, primary balancing, segment label. And what about account? Natural account. Cool. This is how this should be defined. Now what I am trying to do is for company or account segment, I want to remove the label. For account, I want to remove the label. Okay. Select, remove. Now say save and close. Say somebody created like this. Now you created your chart of account structure and instance and you are submitting for a deployment. Since we did some small change, system is updating, the entire accounting flex field is edited. Entire accounting flex field is edited means within that accounting flex field, one or multiple chart of account structures or instances are edited. Validation is required. When you see the status as edited, the meaning is validation is required for this accounting flex field. Now submit for deployment. Now within this accounting flex field only we have Dell chart of account structure. Okay, now it identified. See what is the error message? It identified one error. Okay, one error. Here you can read clearly and you can understand and you can fix it. It's very important. You should read. Okay, error. One error. Flex field metadata validation error. What is the issue? You have to read this. So J, B, O, F, N, D, etc., etc. These all, it's nothing. Here you can see required label. The message, number, nothing, no meaning in this, no meaning in this, no meaning in this. Here we got some meaning. You must assign a required label to GL account. Okay, GL account to at least one segment. The GL account means the natural account. That's what you have to understand. The GL account means natural account segment label. System is saying you must assign a required label called as natural account segment label to at least one segment. Okay, at least one segment we have to assign. Here you can see, notice, scroll little down. So it is giving a message. The structure name is, in which structure that natural account segment label is missing, that system is giving the name. What is the structure name? L123 COA structure. You need to assign required segment label, okay, to GL account to at least the same message. Okay, action needed. Please correct flex field definition, flex field metadata, and retry to deploy the flex field. This is how you have to read it. Okay. So when you come across with any error, okay, expand this section. There's just, you have to read it. Sometimes if issue with the two chart of account structures or maybe 4 or 5 chart of account structure, you will have a just big message section, means a lot of content you can find. With some patience, maybe by spending 2 to 3 minutes, you have to read at least one time so that you can go and fix. Now what I can do is, yeah, please.
Yeah, is this problem is not for test instance also?
Any
There is a
any instance, if you have some this sort of issue, this is how system will display during the deployment.
okay, but my thing is actually in the test instance only one structure is there, our structure, our client structure only.
Okay, yeah. Reality.
So that time
I got you.
Real, yeah.
When it comes to client instance, you never come across with these issues. Somebody will take the responsibility of defining the structure and instance. Okay.
Yes.
So in that case, you never come across with these issues.
Any problem is occurred in our chart of accounts, only we will manage the errors of that.
Exactly. This mostly you come across when you do the practice and all training. Okay, these test instances. When you are working for your client, nobody will use those instances for practice, etc., right? So you will create, you know how to create, then only they will take you into the project. So you will create without any issues. Then you never get this sort of errors. Yeah.
Lakshman, as we have already deployed our chart of account structure instance, can we use that in Ledger now? Because still our deployment status is
yes.
edited.
Answer is yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now our chart of account structure and instance are deployed, right? Now what we did, we edited Dell. After deploying our chart of account structure and instance, we edited. Our chart of account structure and instance are already deployed. Now issue with Dell, that when it happened after deployment, you will be able to use those structure and instance now. Now, issue with this. Now, when new chart of account structure and instance are created, those need to be deployed. Yep, that is the point. Whatever already deployed, those you can use even there is some error after the deployment. That's true. Now we'll fix it. How to fix, we'll see. When you are practicing, if you come across with this sort of error messages and all, how to fix it. Try to identify which chart of account structure that is referring. Here you never get instance. Okay. Instance related message you don't get here. The issue, validation and all will happen primarily for our chart of account structure only, not for instance. So pick this and go to manage structures, search. So this is the one, select, click on edit. So the message is very clear for account, GL account. They are saying select account segment, click on edit. What somebody did this, right? How it is reflecting. I think simultaneously somebody is doing that. Okay, just now we removed, right? Okay, so it should be like this. Now based on that message, you have to assign. Now say save and close. Please don't play with the same structure if you are already doing now. Now submit for deployment. Okay, the expected result is no errors. Let's wait for a second. Maybe it may take 1 or 2 minutes time to validate. Meantime, any questions on the same point, please?
Lakshman, is there any security like once deployment status is done, so there would be like no changes, right? Is there any security like that?
No, see, it is not related to specific to our chart of account structure. This is for entire accounting flex field. Okay, entire accounting flex field, so no security to freeze it. We have that option would be open only. Any new chart of account structure and instance is created, the status will turn into edit, and the latest definitions if you want to use, you have to make sure that the deployment status is deployed.
So what's the significance like is anyone is going back and editing something like that's not like is it possible like we cannot add any?
Always possible, because this access can be given to ideally consultants. Consultants will get access to this. The business users never get access to this pages. So that we don't need to worry about on those points. Consultants who are working on the project, they should be expertised on this, so they know what to do, what not to do. We never give access to the business users who will involve in the transaction creation in the system. So there is no risk.
So as you said, like so Oracle is not recommending to add any of the like you say segments. So
Exactly.
So what is there any additional?
Yeah, there is one
like
option. There is one all solution and all. We will discuss. See, now we discussed about only 3 segments, right? Okay, going forward, we discussed already like how many segments we can go max, how many generally companies follows, what are the best practices when we design the chart of accounts. In that session, we will discuss. Maybe in 2 to 3 sessions, we will come across all those points. Okay. The reality, how we design the chart of accounts. When you design the chart of accounts, what we have to take as segments, what we should not take as segment, what are the best practices when you design the chart of accounts, all these points we'll discuss. Maybe after 2, 3 sessions later. Yeah, there we'll discuss.
Yeah, thank you. So it would be like
No, that's very
related to
much
like
important. If you are learning just how to do, no use. You have to understand the core points which will help you to make the decision making or solution design tomorrow when you are working on the application. That's very important. I'll take care of those. I know you may not aware of those. What you should learn, I know very well. What you should learn to work to crack your interview to after getting into job, you will be able to survive. So for that, what content you required, I'll definitely I'll take care of. You may not ask me, but I'll take care of.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Lakshman.
Yeah.
Here the deployment is taking place per instance, right?
For entire accounting flex field.
Entire accounting flexibility, whatever the instances are created. Every time you create a new instance, copy a new instance, it will compile, it will validate.
Yeah.
Deployment has to take place.
Yeah, the deployment is happening or happen for all the chart of account structures and instances, both. Not only
Both.
instances,
Okay.
both. Accounting within the accounting flex field, we created structures and instances, right?
You can have multiple structures and multiple per structure. You can have multiple instances.
Correct. For everything, it will validate. All it will validate when you submit deploy.
So per se, it is flex field is being validated.
Exactly. Flex field is being validated means inside of the flex field, what we have, everything will get validated. Correct.
Yeah, whatever the structures we have and whatever the instances per each structure we have, everything will be validated.
You are right. Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right. Now it's deployed. Say okay. Okay. Now click on search, it will get updated. I'm really sorry somebody is working on the same time. Please don't do that. It's anyway, it's validated. We have seen some message. Okay, within this time gap, somebody again started editing. That is the reason deployment status is edited. Okay. No worries, just notice once deployment is done without errors completed, the status will turn into deployed. So we're done with the deployment. Now what we have to do is we have to create the segment values and the value sets. How to create the segment values and the value sets? Segment values means company is a segment. These company names are company segment values. Can we create these segment values under segments directly? No. With the help of value set only, you can create the values. Once you create the company value set, if you create companies, already company value set is assigned to company segment. Those values will be available under respective segments only. Now we'll see how to create segment values in the value sets. Here itself, you can go to any task. Any task means which task those are. You can go to manage chart of account structures, manage chart of accounts value sets, or manage chart of accounts value set values. You can use any one of the tasks. It will take us to same page. These two tasks will take us to same page. Click on go to task icon. Okay. Now let's find out what are the value sets we created. I'll say X, Y, Z, and C. Search. So X, Y, Z, and C company department account. This is what we created, and we assigned these three value sets to respective segments within our chart of accounts. Right. Done. Now we want to create company names within the company value set. So what you can do is you can select company value set and you can click on manage values, or else directly here you can search for only company value set. Okay, click on search. Okay, XYZ company, click on search. If you want to check how this value set is created, you can click on edit. Okay, XYZ company, click on edit. You can see how this is created. So in future, you can increase the length, but don't decrease the length. If you decrease the length, it will create data inconsistency issues. There will be many issues with that data. So, but we never change this. If you want, you can increase, but you cannot. You should not decrease. Okay, just for information, I'm showing. You don't need to do anything with this. We never play with all this information once it is ready. It's a one-time definitions. So if you click on edit, you can see how this value set is created. And if you want to create the values within this value set, click on manage values. So this is our value set. Click on search to find out the values in this value set. We are not finding anything. The reason we didn't create any values in this value set. Let's create now. Click on create. You can give the value is nothing but code. We given the maximum length. Maximum length we given 4, right? Now you can enter the company code with 1 digit or 2 digits or 3 digits or 4 digits, not more than 4. We given maximum 4. You may enter 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 digits, not more than 4 digits. If I try to enter the company code like this, system won't allow. Once you enter the data, okay, it won't allow. It will give the message. Say I'll give the name as. So that is the code I'm giving. Company name as XYZMC Consulting Services. Consulting services. So this company by default, whatever we are creating enabled. This company, if you want to use for certain time period only, you can give the start date and end date, so that this company would be available only for that period to record the transactions. Sort order means when you have multiple companies here, order you can decide here. Summary means, okay, summary it is by default, it is no. That means if it is a no, then only you can record the transactions with this company. If you set summary as yes, this you can use for only reporting as a parent company. Under this will have some child companies. This should be available only to perform the reporting, not to record the transactions. By default, system is selecting as no, accept no. Okay, if you set to no, then you will be able to record the transactions. So when you record the when you set this as a no, that means you want to record the transactions with this. When you record the transaction, definitely that information we have to process and we have to use the data for reporting purpose. If you want to process the data and if you want to use this company related data for reporting purpose, allow posting should be yes. Okay, allow posting should be yes. If allow posting is yes, then only with this company, what are the transactions we created, we can use for reporting purpose. Allow budgeting. If allow budgeting is set to yes, in future, if you want to create any budget for this company, say for so on this company, you want to set some budget for so and so month, say in the November month for XYZ ANC consulting services for stationery, you may set the budget as a only $25,000. That's how you can set the budget. When you can set, if allow budgeting is set to yes here, if I set to no here, I cannot create the budget for this. Okay. So ideally what system is taking, let's accept. If any need to change, we will discuss and do that. Allow posting, yes, since this is not a parent company. So how can you say summary if you set to yes, parent. With this company, you cannot record the transaction if you set summary as yes. System is taking no, accept it, so that with this you will be able to record the transaction. When you are recording the transaction, those need to be processed and you have to provide the reporting. With any company, if you want to process the transactions and if you want to prepare the reports, this allow posting should be yes only. So don't change anything. We are not changing anything. We given the company code and we given the meaning of that company code description. And enable by default system is selecting start date and end date. You can set accordingly within the time period only the company will be available for the business users to record the transactions. We never set these dates, start dates and end dates ideally. Sort order means if you have multiple companies, you have to change the order for a display and all that, you can use this. And summary, system is selecting as a no, accept it. that means this is not a parent company. If it is no, it is not a parent company. If it is yes, it is a parent company. With the parent company, you cannot record the transaction. With any company, if you want to record the transaction, make sure that summary is set to no only. By default, system is selecting no, you accept it. Allow posting, allow budgeting, system is selecting yes, you accept it, don't change it, not required. So now I'll try to create one more company. Click on create, now you'll get a message. So issue with this segment company code. So the value 11100 is too long. The length is allowed up to 4 characters only. Right? So this is what you can notice. I want to give only 4 digits. Okay, 1000. Company code I am giving 1000. Now click on add. Now you can give company code maybe 2000. These all codes and all client will decide. We'll sit with that client. They'll say what company codes they require. They want to go with something like 10, 20, or if they have 5 companies like 1000, 2000, 3000 or 4000, or else if they have 5 companies they want to go with the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or else they may choose 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So what code they require, they will decide. When you sit with the client, when you discuss about all this information, they'll give all the details that only we have to enter as a company code, and they'll provide the description also for each company, how you want to display in the system. This complete information they will provide what we are entering. So we'll discuss with the client, and the same we will enter in the system. Now here I can say another company, another entity they have like XYZ Financial Services. No need to change anything, accept as it is. Click on add. Say company code is 3000 XYZ BPO services. So they have different vertical of businesses. Okay. The group name is maybe XYZ group, but they are into different businesses. Again, even if they have a single business, if they have multiple branches, how to design the solution, how to bring into the system, that also we'll discuss. So tomorrow when you start working for any client, you will be able to understand everything, you will be able to design the solution. I'll touch all those points. Okay, that's all you should be able to understand. For that, what we have to discuss here, I will cover those. So this is how you can list out all the companies, how many companies they have. Okay, so all you can list out here. Maybe let's create one more company, say 4000 XYZ construction services. So this is how you can create the companies, and click on say save and close. In future, if they are going to come up with a new entity or new vertical of business, anytime you can come to this value set and you can add the companies here. Okay, so they closed BPO services, then you can disable this, or else you can enable, but you can set the end date. Okay, so that this BPO services company will not be displayed for business users. The users who are going to work on the system, those users you can call as business users, or you can call as end users. Right? So this is what we can do. Anytime you can add additional companies into this value set. So this XYZ company value set is assigned to company segment. Since this XYZ value set is assigned to company segment, if you go to company segment, these 4 companies will be displayed because it's already assigned. So within this, what we have, these will be displayed under that segment. Now say save and close. Now again, I am going back to the same XYZ company. Click on manage values. Click on search. So what are the companies we created? System is display. Value company code we given, description we given. This system by default is selecting start date and date, not required sort order. You don't need to change. You can accept, go with whatever the sequence you define. If you want to change the display, here you can say sort order and all. And summary as accept allow posting, allow budgeting, accept it. So this summary, allow posting, allow budgeting. These three columns only, okay, these three columns, these three attributes only, we called as value attributes. Value attributes. The guys who are from EBS background, for them, small note, in Fusion, in EBS, we call as a segment labels. In EBS, the allow budgeting, allow posting, we call as a segment labels. The same segment labels in the Fusion, we are calling as a value attributes. Okay, we are setting certain attributes for each and every segment value. That is the reason we call as a value attributes. Create segment values in value sets we created during the same. Assign value attributes to segment labels. Automatically system is assigning. These three we call as a value attributes. You may ask me the question, where is the proof? If you know EBS, you are aware of it. Even if you don't know EBS, if you want to understand within the Fusion standalone, in the older versions, they used to give the title here as a value attributes. Later, they removed the title, but we should understand these three we call as a value attributes here. As per EBS, these are segment labels. Okay, segment labels. Here we are calling as a value attributes. Remember that point. Okay. There are 2 points I want to address for the guys who are from EBS background. So flex field qualifiers, what we have in EBS in Fusion, we are calling as segment labels. And in EBS, what we have as a segment qualifiers, those in Fusion we are calling as value attributes. That's all. Okay. So this is a note. Now anyway, we'll go and create the values for other segments also. That means other segments means other value sets. Now say save and close. Now we'll create the values for department. Search. Okay, click on manage values. We didn't create any values within the department value set. So if you click on search, nothing you can see. Let's create. For a department also, we given maximum length as a 4. Okay, maximum length as a 4. Any numbering you can give. You can give here also 1000, 2000, 3000. It should be simple, or else we can give. So maybe 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. This is how you can give the numbering. How you require you can give when you are practicing. Reality, this will discuss with the client. Client will decide how they need numbering for companies, departments, accounts, what sequence. Okay, what is the range they have to follow. All need to be discussed, and accordingly we have to enter. Now let's take as this, like 1000 here. Say department name is finance department. This and all you don't need to touch. Accept as this. So for a department also we are getting these 3 value attributes. Notice it. For any segment we'll get those 3. Any segment related values we are going to enter with the help of any value set. So this will get displayed. And one more point here we discussed. What we discussed? After creating value sets, don't enter values immediately. That's the point we discussed. After creating the value set, if you try to enter the values in the value sets immediately, you don't find these 3 columns. Summary, allow posting, allow budgeting. These 3 won't be displayed. That means, what are the values you enter in the value set? For those you are not setting value attributes. So system cannot understand anything, how system has to treat those values. So once deployment is done to our accounting flex field, within the accounting flex field, we'll have our chart of account structure. Within our structure, these value sets should be available with assignment with the specific segments. Then only those value sets will have these value attributes. Okay, that's a very important point. So after deployment only try to create the values in the value set so that you could see these three columns. Before deployment, just after creating the value set, if you try to create the values, these attributes system won't display. Without attributes, if you create the values in the value set, no use at all. Never do that, follow the same sequence. Say HR department. $3,000 maybe. Sales. You can list out a number of departments. Okay, for our practice, you can list how many you want to have in this value set. Say save and close. For company and department, we have three value attributes: summary, allow budgeting, allow posting. Now let's try to enter the values for account. Anyone please try to answer. For account segment, which label we assign and what purpose we assign. What purpose we assign, we didn't discuss very much detail level and we don't have proofs also as of now. We'll see very soon. But as of now, whatever we discuss, you try to answer. So for account segment, which label we assign and what purpose we assign. Anyone please.
For natural account segment, we have
Label we assign and what purpose we assign. Whatever we discussed, you can say that. Say what purpose.
That has to classify the value as an expense account or revenue account or asset or liability.
Exactly. To set
to understand the nature of the account, we have added.
Yeah, no. To understand, correct. Before that, we have to set the nature. When you set, you can understand, right? To set the nature. Now, when you assign, what we did see here, we created for account segment. Sorry, anyway, here we written. For account segment, we assign natural account segment label. Now we are creating the values where account values are. Do you think this natural account segment label, whatever we assign to account, it will have impact on this account value set? What do you think? You please tell me.
Yes, according value set will have further classification of accounts, right?
Natural account segment label I assign to account segment, not to account value set.
Yeah, account segment. Yeah, it will not have any.
No. I assigned to segment. I didn't assign to value set. Now where I'm creating the value?
No, yes, the value set also will have additional columns to classify it further.
We have try to answer to my question. Please don't mind. You are correct. You are correct. What you are saying correct. But to understand the point, I'm asking this question. See, the value set will have additional columns. Let it be. My question is, we assign a natural account segment label to account segment, not to account value set.
Correct.
I think the natural account segment label will have impact on account value set. Yes, sir. No? Oh, somebody.
Yes.
Nice, please go ahead.
Yes, it is having impact.
How?
Because this value set is assigned to the segment.
Exactly. Now what happens is value set also we assign to account segment. So now natural account segment label we assign to account. Since the account value set is assigned to account, the natural account segment label assignment will be applicable for value set also. Okay. Natural account segment label assignment is applicable for account segment to account segment, what are the value set we are assigning to that also it is applicable. That means the natural account segment label impact you can see within the account value set. What exactly that we'll go to see now. Search for account value set. Please go on mute. Somebody is still unmuted. Search. Manage values. Click on add. Now see here, any additional columns you can see?
Account type, third party
Account
control,
type is the new one.
reconciliation.
Yes.
3 additional
Account type,
attributes.
third party control account, reconcile, financial category. For company and department, we are able to see these 3 value attributes: summary, allow budgeting, allow posting. These 3 we are able to see. For account related value set, we are able to see 4 more additional value attributes: account type, third party control account, reconcile, and financial category. These 4 additional you can see. How come you are able to see here? Because this natural account segment label is adding to account value set. How it is adding? This account value set is added to account segment. We assign natural account segment label to account. Through account segment, this label is adding those additional 4 properties to account value set. That's all. That means here we are able to see these 4 additional value attributes. These 4 additional attributes because of natural account segment label. If you assign natural account segment label to company segment, if you go to company level also you can see for company value set we have. When you are creating the values within the company value set, you can see account type, third party control account, reconcile, financial category. For company, there won't be any account type. That is the reason we never assign. Wherever it is required, we have to assign. It is always required for account only, so we assign. Remember, these 4 additional attributes how we are getting because of natural account segment label. If you assign natural account segment label to any segment, to that segment, whatever the value set is assigned, in that value set, when you are creating the values, the natural account segment label will display these 4 value attributes. This is what we have to understand. Okay. So this is what we have to understand. How come we could see this additional 4? Because of natural account segment label. Why we assign, hope you can understand now. Okay. Now we'll add one account here. I'll say salaries account. Here also we given the maximum length as a 4 digits only, right? Maximum size, I guess. Maximum size we given as 4. So you can take some number. I'll say HSBC corporate account means cash. I'll say cash HSBC corporate account. So summary accept as no only. Allow posting, allow budgeting accept as it is. Account type. What is the type of this account? Okay. 5 types we have. Okay. 5 type of accounts. Expense, revenue, liabilities, ownership or owner's equity, and all you can say. Primarily in the transaction process, what we use is this 4 only. This is the one where we can use to manage that profitability and all. Okay. So primarily this 4. Now this account is falls under which type? What is the nature for that account? Cash.
Asset, right?
Asset. If somebody is not aware of whether this is asset or liability, you no need to worry about it. Wait for some time. We have complete information for you also. Okay, yes, asset. So now you can select as a account type as a asset. Asset. See, asset, liability, expense, revenue, owner's equity. These budget, debit, and credit for budget purpose. These reality, these two are not account types. When somebody says what are the account types, say only 5: assets, liabilities, expense, revenue, and ownership. Now select. This is a cash account for which we are using for HSBC corporate account. Each bank account we maintain separate cash account, so that separate we will be able to track how much cash available in the each and every account. We never use one cash account for multiple bank accounts. Okay, set as a yes. This third party control account, reconcile, financial category, those are separate concepts. When you're dealing with those concepts, I will discuss about that. For now, not required. Now click on add. One more account I want to add. So based on the account types also, we use the grouping of these codes. That also we'll discuss at the time of rapid implementation. For now, you can take random accounts, random numbering. I'll say your salaries. What is the nature of salaries? You are paying extras. Click on add. And what is the, like, when you are running the company, what is our target? What's the purpose we run the company? To get the profits. To get the profits. Please go on mute. Somebody is still unmuted. Some noise is coming. They are just using some system. They are typing, etc., etc. So every company, what is the target profit and all? To calculate that profit, to identify that how much profitability we are going to get, and the relevant information to capture, we use one account called as, or else before that, let me explain. See, how we can get the profit, how we can find the profit. Simple. We have to find out how much revenue we got. From that, we have to reduce expense. Revenue minus expense, what we'll get? Net income. This you can call as surplus. To find out how much net income we have or surplus we got, instead of calling as a net income surplus, for that Oracle is giving the name as retained earnings. Retained earning account. Retained earnings account is nothing but net income account. How much revenue you got? Say you got 10 lakhs revenue. How much you spent? 4 lakhs. 6 lakhs is net income. So this calculation is very basic calculation required in the system. For that, how much net income you are getting, that need to be managed in the system. For that, one account is very much mandatory when you do the setups. Where it is required, we will discuss. So that account we have to maintain within our chart of accounts. That is the retained earnings account. Retained earnings account is nothing but net income, or you can say surplus account. How do you get retained earnings? Revenue minus expense. So let's create that account also. Retained earnings account. Everything you can accept as it is. Just select account type. The account nature is owner's equity. Okay, retained earnings nature is owner's equity. So this is just you can create few more accounts. Later we'll create many accounts. How to load everything we'll discuss. For now, our testing purpose, you can enter few accounts. I'll say liability, or you can say accounts payables. Accounts payable means how much we have to pay. The liability what we have. Accounts payables means liability. What I'm doing, what I'm selecting, if you are not aware, no worries. Wait for some time. It would be very clear for everyone. You may not aware of what is asset, what is a liability, what is expense, doesn't matter. So just wait for some time, we'll come to that. Okay, accounts payable, nature is liability. That's it. So this is how just we have to set the nature for each and every account. Rest of information we can accept as this the defaults what system is taking, and say save and close. So this is how you can create the values within the value sets. Now we are ready with everything, right? We're done with the values creation. During the values creation, system is defaulting the value attributes like account type and all. We have to select that. We completed all these setups. Okay, we complete all these setups. So now we have accounting calendar, right? Accounting calendar. We have chart of accounts, COA. See, we created chart of accounts structure and chart of accounts structure instance. But when it comes to usage, simply we call a chart of accounts. When you say chart of account, remember chart of account structure instance we are referring. And we have currency. With these three elements, or you can say with these three components, we can record the transaction. Within the system, if you have a calendar, you can capture the dates when you are recording the transaction. If you have a chart of accounts, you can describe the transaction details. And if you have a currency, what are the amounts you are entering, that you can set the amounts are belongs to which currency. That means with the calendar, currency, chart of accounts, you can record the transaction in the system in more meaningful way. So what we have to do is, whenever you record the transactions, these three components are required. Whenever you want to record today I want to record one transaction, I purchase something, I want to record, I need calendar, chart of accounts and currency. Reality, this is accounting calendar, or simply you can call as calendar also. When you say calendar, that is accounting calendar only. Okay, this is a calendar, this is a chart of accounts, this is a currency. If you notice here, the three components what we require when you record the transactions, the three components are starting with the C. You can notice there. Calendar is starting with the C, chart of account is starting with C, currency is starting with C. Now if I ask you the question, to record the transactions, what components required? Definitely you can answer. To record the transaction in the system, we need three components. Your answer is, to record the transactions, we need three components. Those three components are calendar, currency, and chart of accounts. Yes, true. If you ask me the same question, my answer is, it's very simple. To record the transactions, we need three C's. Because three are starting with the C. Since these three components are starting with the C, we simply call it as three C's. We call it as three C's. Three C's means calendar, currency, chart of accounts. I can say, if you ask me, to record the business transactions, what we require in the system, I'll say, to record the business transactions, we need three C's. Three C's are nothing but calendar, currency, chart of accounts. That's all. Okay. I want to record transactions now. Yes, I need calendar, currency, chart of accounts. I want to record transactions maybe after some time, or today afternoon, today evening. Whenever I want to record the transactions, I need these three. But these three components are different components. These are separate components. Already we have seen. We created calendar in one page, chart of accounts in the different hierarchies in the accounting key flex field. Currency page is different. Calendar we created, chart of accounts we created, currency we no need to create. All currency values are available. Just we have to make sure that those are enabled. These three components we have in the system as a separate components only. These three are not combined, but when we record the transactions, every time we need these three. So to combine these three, we can create something in the system. To combine this calendar, currency, chart of accounts, to combine, because every time we need these three, that is the reason if you combine it, it would be easy for us to record the transactions. If you don't combine, it will be difficult. every time selecting all these and recording the transaction. That is the reason what Oracle did is, by combining these three components, they created something called primary ledger. In short, you can call as PL. In every transaction, these three components are required. So that is the reason by combining these three, Oracle created primary ledger. By creating the primary ledger, you can group these three. By grouping these three, you can create the primary ledger. Now, if I ask you the question, if you want to create the primary ledger, what we require? Instead of saying calendar, currency, chart of accounts, or instead of saying 3Cs, now simply you can say, to create the transaction, the system, we need primary ledger. That's all. Simplified. The answer is simplified. To create the transactions, what we need in the system, your answer is, to create the transaction, the system, we need primary ledger. What do you mean by primary ledger? How do you create? What do you mean? That we'll discuss. How do you create the primary ledger? By selecting calendar, currency, chart of accounts, we can create the primary ledger. Okay. Here, another point. So we discussed. Here are the different applications we have. Okay, we have these different applications. So, if you want to record the transactions in general ledger application, these 3Cs are enough. With these 3Cs, if you create primary ledger, you can record the transaction in the general ledger application. Reality, we don't record any transaction in the general ledger. Reality. The real transactions will be recorded in the respective departments. For each department, we have different applications. Payables department, we have Oracle Fusion Accounts Payables. All the payable related invoices, payments will record in the accounts payable application. Receivable related transaction, the receivables application. That's how we have a different departments. For each department, we have a separate application. In the Fusion General Ledger application, mostly we don't record the transactions. What we record, what we do, that also we'll discuss. We have a detailed sessions going forward. So now the point is, if you want to record any transactions, we require 3Cs in general ledger application. That means if you create the primary ledger with the 3Cs, that primary ledger you can use in Oracle Fusion general ledger application. But if you want to record the transactions in these applications, other than general ledger, all applications we call as sub-ledger applications. We have one session where we'll understand these points. For now, take simple point. Now let's make it simple. If you want to record the transactions in the general ledger, we need 3Cs. By combining the 3Cs, if you create the primary ledger, that primary ledger we can use in the general ledger application. If you want to record any transactions in these applications, the primary ledger what we have with the 3Cs, that is not enough. What we need is, we have to include one more component to primary ledger. That is accounting method. Okay, the same accounting method you can call as sub-ledger accounting method. In other words, we can call as convention. Accounting convention also. Convention. Leave it, not required. That is technical term. Now what Oracle is saying is, what is this? This, we will have one session on this. By looking at this name, we should not try to understand immediately. Okay. We should not try to understand immediately. That will disturb everything. That will spoil everything what we are trying to understand. So now, to have minimum idea about it, I'll give few points. We have a separate concept on this. Separate session we have. One session we'll have on this. Now the simple point. In payables, when you record the transaction, say you are recording the supplier invoice. You purchase something, you have to make the payment. For that you need supplier invoice, or say purchase invoice. In payables, we are recording the purchase invoice. When you record the purchase invoice, what account should be debited, what account should be credited, you no need to select. System will take care. How system will take care? We have to define the rules in the system. Who has to define? We no need to define. Oracle will define. Okay, if somebody is recording the purchase invoice, always that accounting would be same. Which account should be debited, which account should be credited. But which exact account we will set in the system, that only system will take. And when you make the payment, what account should be debited or what account should be credited? We no need to go and give this, take this account debit, take this account as credit as a manual accounting. No. In the system, everything is automated. Oracle automated everything. Our task is very less. We no need to do which account system has to debit, which account system has to credit. When you create invoice, when you make the payment, when you create the billing, that means sales invoice, when you create the receipt, when you create asset, when you calculate depreciation, all the business transaction what we record, we no need to provide the accounts. System will take automatically. You no need to enter debit and credits. System will take which account is debit, which account is credit. We no need to do that. That's how Oracle automated. To automate it, somewhere Oracle has to write the rules. Those rules are available within this accounting method. Do we need to create accounting method? No. However, Oracle is providing the currency the same way accounting method or subledger accounting method Oracle is providing. Within that accounting method, we have all the rules. In any application, if you create any transaction, system will take debits and credits, and based on that, accounting interest will be created. Everything is automated. We no need to do anything. Based on the client requirement, if you want to modify the Oracle provided accounting method, how to do that also I will take you through in the classes. I will explain how this accounting method looks like, how it works, what components we have inside of accounting method. If your client wants to modify how the accounting should happen as per their business, how to customize it, how to modify it, I'll cover in one session. We have a separate session that. For now, simple point you remember, within the accounting method, we have accounting rules to generate the accounting entries in these applications. Other than general ledger applications, in all applications, if you want to create accounting entries, accounting method is required, or you can say subledger accounting method is required. Now what Oracle says is, already these three are, we are calling as 3 C's. It's not good to call 3 C's at 1 A. What Oracle says is, count this C. The second letter in the accounting method, count this C. Is 4, this ignore A, count C. Now this we call as 4 C's. You may not accept, but this is a true. You can check the documentation. Now these are 4 C's. With these 4 C's, you can create the primary ledger. Okay. You can create primary ledger 3 C's. By grouping these 3, you can create the primary ledger, or else by grouping these 4 also, you can create the primary ledger. By grouping 3 C's, okay, if you create the primary ledger, you can record the transactions only in the general ledger. But if you create primary ledger with the 4 C's, oh, sorry. So if you create primary ledger with the 4 C's, that primary ledger you can use all these applications. If you want to record the transaction of the payables, we need primary ledger with 4 C's. If you want to record the transaction of the receivables, we need primary ledger. Without primary ledger, you cannot record the transactions in any application. But inside of the primary ledger, how many components we have, whether we have 3 C's or 4 C's, it's very important. If you have a primary ledger with the 3 C's, that primary ledger you can use only in general ledger application. If you have like primary ledger with the 4 C's, you will have a right to use that primary ledger in all these applications. Even if you have a primary ledger with the 4 C's, that 4 C's primary ledger you can use in general ledger. But as per general ledger, 3 C's are enough, but you have one more extra, you can use it. If you have a primary ledger of the 3 C's, that can be used in only general ledger application. If you have a primary ledger of the 4 C's, you can use that primary ledger in any application. That can be payables, receivables, or general ledger, or take any application, you can use it. Okay. So just it's like some information I'm trying to give. Okay, we will create in the system and we'll understand, we will use it, we'll understand more and more. So that's how you can grab the complete information what we require. Now just I'm trying to introduce, that's all. Okay, how primary ledger looks like, don't try to find out the colors now itself. Just remember the name, we discussed one point, primary ledger. How to create? By combining the 3 C's or 4 C's. Reality, almost all the implementations we create primary ledger with the 4 C's only. If you do 100 implementations, somewhere you may do the one implementation with only 3 C's. When and how, that also I'll discuss. But most of the implementation, the 4 C's only. We create the primary ledger 4 C's and we'll do that. Yeah. So on this point, any questions, please? Don't go like details in depth on this. Whatever the points we are discussing, with very relevant to that, you can raise your questions. You can ask any questions, but the content we not at introducing as of now. We have some time. But what points we discussed on that? Any questions here, please?
Can we call it as accounting conventions also, Lakshman? The fourth.
Yeah, that's what I said. Accounting convention.
Okay.
We call it as, that is a technical term. Don't think
okay.
it as a convention. That is the reason convention start with the C. That is the reason this is a force.
Okay.
C. No, that is not. Okay. Verify the documentation. Clearly they mentioned the fourth C is nothing but accounting method. They are marking. Okay. They are underlining C. Okay.
Fine. Got it.
Do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the point.
One question, Mr. Lakshman. Coming to COA, chart of accounts. See, this may not be related to this class, this particular class, but the concept wise.
Don't mind. In the end of the session, we'll listen. Because this information may be useful for you and me only in that case. Yeah. We both can on that. End of the session, you can.
So, Lakshman, you created the primary ledgers yet?
Not yet.
We'll have separate class.
We are going to create now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 1 minute task. We will create now. Any questions before that, please? Okay, no questions. Let's see how to create the primary ledger with the 4 C's. Okay. So out of these 4, how many we have to create, how many Oracle is providing, we have to clear. So primary ledger, to create the primary ledger, we need 4 components. Calendar we have to create based on which country we are doing implementation. Chart of accounts we have to design based on the client reporting requirements. Remember these points. Chart of accounts we have to create based on the client reporting requirements. Currency Oracle is providing, accounting method also Oracle is providing. If what are the currency we need, if the currency value is not available in instance, you can add it, but otherwise don't test to add it. And accounting method Oracle is providing, you can use it. If you want to do any changes to Oracle provided one, how to do the changes, I am going to take one session on that. Complete session on accounting method I will take. I'll explain how it would be, like many points we'll discuss. In case of any project, if you have to do some modifications as per client requirement, you can do it. It's very easy to modify. Okay, I'll take you through that. Okay. So now to create the primary ledger, we need 4 components. Out of that, we have to create only 2. Yes, we created these other 2 components Oracle is providing. We can use as this. Let's see how to create the primary ledger now. It won't take much time. Okay, so save and close. And one more point. After creating the values in the value sets, you don't need to go and deploy. Okay, you don't need to deploy the accounting flex field. Here already as a sequence of steps, you deployed. You deployed, done. After that, after creating the values and all, again, you don't need to go back and deploy. Not at all required. So after deployment, you can create the values, leave it. Someone else is going to create the new structure and instances. That is their headache. They have to deploy, then only their structure and instance will be ready. because someone else is going to create new structure instances that never will impact our existing chart of account structure and instances. The point we have to notice. Okay. Now,
even while practicing, we need to follow the same sequence, right? Then only it will be.
Try with a different sequence, you cannot proceed. Say first you want to deploy. What is the use? What you are deploying? Nothing. Right? You want to create segments. Where you will create segments? When you create segments, value sets are important before the structure is important. Or else you are trying to create from here. What about your value sets? Without assigning the value set to segment, you cannot create the segment. Same sequence. No change in that. If you change, you cannot do anything. Okay, follow this, you will be able to complete that all subsequent steps. What you're expecting to complete, you can complete. Otherwise, you will start again stopping and going back and creating. That is different. Okay, done.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Now we'll create the primary ledger. Okay, just 2 minutes job. Search for primary ledger. Okay. So task name is manage primary ledger. Whatever we are doing in the system, please make a note. Okay, don't depend on recording sessions. Recording sessions we never play. We know that. Sometimes, unfortunately, we may play those videos and all, but generally we never play. So please make a note. Always depend on the notes what you are taking. When you are practicing, if you open your notebook, what you are using now for preparation, you should be able to complete your practice. That's how. Please get ready by attending the classes. If you think okay, you are getting, you will get just now only, not after class when you are practicing. So I don't know like how you are going to drive it further. So my suggestion is please make a note when you attend the classes, classroom training and all. Always will maintain one book and will write each and everything, navigation, first giving name, entering this and that field, etc. Click on submit, click on next, this, that. Everything will capture into notebook. The same you have to do. Even this is online training. Follow that practice. That will help you to do this. Even you may have a 10 years or 15 or 20 years of experience. At least you have to practice 2 times. You will feel comfortable, and this you can say you got experience also. Okay. So if you are a fresher, 100% you have to do it. Even you are experienced guy, you should practice. Then only you will be comfortable with this. Otherwise, after training, when you start working, you will not be able to create the chart of account also. If you are not able to create chart of accounts, rest what we are going to discuss, nothing you can touch. So very important. You will get all the videos. Videos are downloadable. Once you place in the drive, you can download and you can keep with you permanently. We never get that much time to play those videos once again, where we are attending the classes. We never play. It's a very much mandatory and the situation is serious. We may play, but for smooth transition, like to practice and all, please make a note of each and every point we are discussing. That may be theoretical point or system related practice. Just keep as it is ready in the system. In the note, that will help you a lot. The task name is manage primary ledgers. Click on manage primary ledgers task. Say go to task. Click on go to task. So in this instance, you can see many primary ledgers. Reality, if you are doing implementation for one country, only one primary ledger. If you are doing the implementation for 10 countries, 10 primary ledgers, you can see. Those points also we'll discuss. We have a separate session called as enterprise structure. There we will discuss how many primary ledgers are required when you do the implementation. For now, leave it. So we are going to create our own primary ledger. Just click on create. What is the navigation? Just we have to search for primary ledger. Search for primary ledger. You don't need to give the full name. With the short name, you can search. So manage primary ledgers is the task name. Click on this task. Then click on go to task icon. Click on create to create the new primary ledger. Here you can provide the primary ledger name. When you create the primary ledger name, always include the company name. Please go on mute. Please. I don't know the reason. Sometimes somebody's on mute. Done. Okay. So XYZ. So when you create the primary ledger name, we have to include few points. One is company name, other point is country name. Then what we are creating, that you can write on the definition itself. So XYZ USA primary ledger. Follow this format whenever you create the primary ledger. Country name should be included. What we are creating primary ledger. Here definitely have to write name as a primary ledger, and company name. Company, country, and what we are defining, we have to write. So XYZ USA primary ledger, because primary ledgers always will create country specific. So chart of accounts. Here they are not saying chart of account structure or chart of account structure instance, right? They are not saying anything. But here clearly we just discussed. So we created chart of account structure with this name, XYZ accounting flex. Instance name is XYZ accounting flex. Now what we can select here, you can see. Go to chart of accounts. Here you can find only instance. You cannot find the structure. Structure name is XYZ accounting flex field. Instance name is only flex. So here you can see what you can see, XYZ accounting flex. When you say flex, that is instance only. When you see flex field, that is structure. That's how we written the name, right? That's how we given the name. Now we are not able to see our structure name. We are able to see only instance, which is created against our structure. Select the same. And accounting calendar, we created our accounting calendar, right? XYZ accounting calendar. Select the same. XYZ accounting calendar. And we are creating this primary ledger for which country? USA. So what is the local currency for US? What is the functional currency for US? The same currency you have to select, USD, US dollar. Now see, when you create the primary ledger, name is mandatory, description is optional. There is no star mark for description field. Chart of accounts mandatory, star mark is there. Accounting calendar is mandatory. Currency is mandatory. So when you create the primary ledger, the 3 C's are mandatory. 3 C's are mandatory. If you create primary ledger, at least you should be able to use it in the GL, general ledger application. That is the reason these 3 C's are mandatory. Accounting method field is optional. Other than general ledger application, if you want to use this primary ledger in those applications, then only it is mandatory. Say you want to use this primary ledger in the accounts payable application. Even the field is not mandatory, you should select. Okay, so you select standard accrual. I will explain. When we have a class on accounting method, I will explain what is the meaning of standard accrual. Okay, so what are the other types we have for accounting methods also we'll discuss. Now what we can do is, when you create your primary ledger, even the field is not mandatory, select it. Because if you don't select it, this primary ledger we can use only in the general ledger application. If you want to use this primary ledger along with the general ledger, the different applications or say different modules, accounting method is mandatory. If you don't select accounting method here, this you cannot use in the subledger applications to create transactions and to create accounting entries. Very important. Remember, when you create the primary ledger, which components are mandatory? Calendar, currency, chart of accounts. How to create the primary ledger? By selecting calendar, currency, accounting method, we can create the primary ledger. Okay. So accounting method is not mandatory. Why? Accounting method is required other than general ledger application. Other than general ledger application, all applications we call as a subledger application. Anyway, we'll discuss that point later. Ignore it. Okay. When you create the primary ledger, accounting method is not mandatory. Okay. To create the primary ledger, these 3 components are mandatory. Once you create the primary ledger, you cannot change the calendar, you cannot change the chart of accounts, you cannot change the currency. Okay. These 3 C's you cannot change. After creating the primary ledger also, if you want to change, you can change the 4th C, accounting method. System will freeze these 3 once you create. That is a point we have to notice. So just any questions here, please. If you say save and close, our primary ledger would be ready, but not 100%. Something else we have to do so that that primary ledger we can start use.
Mr. Lakshman,
Yeah.
suppose if you create a primary ledger with only 3 C's, the chart of accounts, accounting calendar, and currency, can we add later on the
Yes.
accounting method?
Yes. Anytime you can add, anytime you can change.
Okay. As and when you want to have, use the sub ledgers,
Yes.
then you can add it up.
Yeah, you can add it. Correct.
But those 3 things cannot be changed.
Yeah.
Chart of accounts, accounting calendar, currency cannot be changed.
Correct. Once you save it, you cannot change those. System will freeze it.
Yeah. No, is it once we save or once we record a few transactions?
Once you save, no scope up to recording the transaction. Once you save, game is over.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions here?
Suppose by mistake a consultant gives a wrong selection here. Can we change it through backend?
No. Create one more. Ignore it. Create one more. That's all.
Create one more.
My suggestion is first don't that sort of consultants.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is true.
Yeah, that is
Erroneously, sometimes like that, if it happens. Of course, you are not a consultant if you are not able to create a primary ledger.
Yeah, exactly.
That is true.
Correct. But one point, there's no that much scope to select wrong values. Right? Of course, if it is a global implementation, if you are doing implementation for 100 countries, there may be confusion. But you will be allotted for specific country implementation. You have to be aware of what names you have, how you have. When you are creating, you have to double check here, right? That's all.
Yeah. And in this naming convention, if the company has operations only in India, do we need to specify India in the name?
Name anytime you can update. Okay.
Update. Okay.
Anytime you are doing implementation only in India. So XYZ primary ledger. You started doing the business in US also. For this, you can give XYZ India. Anytime you can update the name. I am saying only these 3 components you cannot update. Name anytime you can edit. I'll show in going forward. That also will cover. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions here? Say save and close. Just we created primary ledger. Okay, we'll go and see that. Click on go to task icon. Here you can search for our primary ledger. XYZ INC. Use enter key from the keyboard. There is no tab they given within the application. What is the status of our primary ledger? In process. There are few things which we have to complete. Those we'll see in the tomorrow session. Okay. So with your permission, I'm planning to take tomorrow class for 3 hours. In between, we can have a 10 minutes break. Okay. With your permission. If 1-2 people says no, I would request them try to be available because you know how things are going on. I'm really sorry for that. Too much of delay and this and that reasons. Few people are not accepting total. I'll agree with them. I'm sorry for that. So with your permission, I'm planning to take session tomorrow 3 hours. Okay, please try to be available on request. I am not going to disturb your weekends by taking the classes next time. So only this weekend only. I'm taking today. Tomorrow also I'll take 3 hours after 1.5 hours we'll take 10 minutes break. After that break again we'll continue for maybe 1 more hour. That's how let's plan for overall 3 hours. Means 7 to 10. Only tomorrow. Later every day we'll have a regular classes. I'll try to keep some backup. If not possible, I'll try to use my client instance. This instance are not going to support to me to take the class. I'll try to use my client instance with my client permission. So at least I'll be able to run the classes. Okay. So I'll look for some alternative. I'm really sorry. I just given a lot of trouble to this batch. Things are not in my control. Okay, if instance means like God, they have to provide us. There is no other option. If it is EBS and all, we can have our own server. We can play. We don't need to depend on anyone. We can run the entire show. Here only just when you go to movie, what they show, we have to see in the same way. These instances we have to use. So I'm really sorry for that, but anyway, we'll try to overcome all these issues as we planned. I'll close for sure by end of the December, if possible, bit early only. There won't be 1 day delay also. We are not going to have one session also in 2022. Okay, by 2021 only we'll end everything. We'll close bit early only. We're done for today. If you have any questions, you can stay back. Otherwise, that's all for today. See you tomorrow, same time. Please you plan for 3 hours with a 10 minutes break in between. Yeah. Any questions from anyone, please?